Tonight on CTV, CSU helps community college students with their degree transfers, as well as helps cows produce milk through combating climate change.
Then the CSU-Wyoming border war approaches, and get an insider's look at the hiking culture in Fort Collins.
All that and more, starting right now on CTV 11. Good evening, Rams. I'm Robbie Patla.
And I'm Ren Wadsworth. Surveillance camera footage shows a Fort Collins police officer roughly arresting a woman behind a church on August 22, 2021. Police were called to the Fort Collins Mennonite Fellowship Church following concerned calls about a woman's behavior. Cameras from the Mennonite church show police approaching the unidentified woman before pushing her into a wall and then onto the ground. It is unclear through both the surveillance and body cam footage what was said between the police and the woman. Following the incident, Pastor Raymer from the church has filed a complaint with the American Civil Liberties Union for the excessive and unnecessary use of violence on the grounds of a pacifist place of worship. However, police officers at the scene state that the initial call was for a mental health matter. The concern was elevated to a priority by medical staff on the scene after seeing the woman's behavior. Fort Collins Police Services issued the statement, quote, "Supervisors reviewed the case in accordance with our policies. No formal complaints were made to our agency. As the ACLU has now filed a complaint on behalf of Mr. Raymer, Internal Affairs will conduct an additional review. As that internal affair takes place, we will be sure to follow along and keep you updated here at CTV."
If you're in need of acupuncture, you may want to be sure who you're working with. Kent Nixon, owner of Old Town Acupuncture, is accused of sexually assaulting clients and pleaded guilty to unauthorized practice of medicine. At his hearing on October 19th, some women testified that Nixon touched them inappropriately and manipulated them. However, according to the Coloradoan, those who are in support of Nixon says the accusations against him were a result of misunderstanding the treatments, elaborating that his profession involves working in the abdomen and pelvic areas. As of right now, Nixon is sentenced to 4 years of probation and 80 hours of community service. During this time, he cannot practice acupuncture, massage, or physical therapy.
Colorado State University signed an agreement with the Colorado Community College system to work on a new associate in engineering science degree. This will allow engineering students to move from community college straight into CSU's mechanical engineering degree. While previously this was already the case for some schools like Front Range Community College, it didn't apply to the whole system. Well, now it does. President Joyce McConnell says, quote, "We're proud to continue our close partnership with the community college system to help more students achieve higher education by eliminating bureaucratic barriers to their success," end quote. Students who complete their associate's degree at community college can transfer into CSU and be guaranteed to be on track for their bachelor's degree. Now teams at CSU and the community college system are brainstorming other degrees they can apply this treatment to, giving students of other disciplines similar benefits.
Now that we're past Halloween, you may notice that stores have started putting up Christmas decorations. Maybe that's to get the jump start into celebrating the season, or maybe it's to distract them from the surrounding empty shelves. Reporter Natalie Devereaux is here to tell us more. Natalie?
That's right. As you said, Robbie, you may have noticed empty shelves at the grocery store recently, or maybe you haven't been able to find specific products. This is due to a worldwide supply chain issue that stems from residual effects of COVID-19. This has led to consumers not being able to buy everything on their shopping list. But how are these shortages affecting those who sell the merchandise?
Driving too quickly down Mountain Avenue, you may miss Beaver's Market, which sits quaintly on the street corner. The shop has been in business for over 45 years and is one of the only family-owned and operated grocery stores in town.
We've all worked here so long. It's been our livelihood.
Fort Collins is packed with family-owned stores, and since the start of the pandemic, people have been advocating the importance of shopping locally.
When you support a family-owned or a local business, that money stays in the community.
But even with increased support, the big issues facing these little shops have been monumental. Recently, the largest issue they must combat is the fractured supply chain.
Right now, about 60% of the product we're ordering is not showing up.
Factories and shipping companies are trying to meet pre-pandemic levels of demand, but do not have enough funds or employees to operate at full capacity.
We've been so used to kind of going along fat, dumb, and happy.
Scarcity is something as Americans we have never dealt with.
This has led to the shortage of products we are now experiencing.
There's a shortage of aluminum and glass and raw materials for packaging.
We have not had a KitchenAid mixer in the store for 14 months.
We needed 500 cases of Corona. We may get 50 or 100.
Some suppliers are resorting to allocating products, which is worrisome to small businesses.
Start to be more of a challenge for us because we're a low volume customer.
If a huge company like Kroger can't get products, a little company like Wilbur's, we don't have a chance in hell.
Even when facing such obstacles, these family-owned stores remain optimistic and want to continue doing their part within the community.
Supply chain issues are not predicted to end anytime soon, and the shortages may have an impact on the upcoming holiday season. It is also anticipated there will be more empty shelves as we head into the new year, with experts saying it could be months before we start to see improvements. Back to you, Robbie and Ren.
Thanks, Natalie. When studying climate change, most of the focus is on the environment and its impact of crop growth. However, a new study has revealed environmental factors have a significant impact on livestock production as well. Cows, much like humans, have an optimal temperature they both function and produce best milk at. Changes to the climate in either direction have shown negative dairy milk yields as a result. CSU Assistant Professor Nathan Mueller explains the case of this through his extensive research.
And then really interesting, we saw that the sensitivity of the system to temperature and humidity stress really decreased a lot over time from the 80s until today.
Mueller and other researchers at CSU plan to work with the USDA's National Health Monitoring System in the future. Through this collaboration, new practices can be discovered and implemented for farmers to increase the dairy flow.
Election season has come and gone, but on the final day of voting, what can you expect to see at Colorado State University? Colorado State University student volunteers took shifts on the plaza, encouraging other Rams to vote in the November 2021 election.
Happy Election Day. We just remind people to vote.
Anya is one of those students.
Colorado has an awesome direct democracy system, but there's still a lot on the ballot that's confusing, and honestly, it's meant to be confusing. You know, like even if you look at the Blue Book, so many of these measures are really dense and hard to read and hard to understand. So we're just out here talking to folks about these ballot measures to make sure that people know what they're actually casting their vote for.
Students and members of the Larimer County community could vote on the third floor of the Laurie Student Center by the Aspen Grill. Voters could both register and submit their ballots on the same day. This year, Coloradoans submitted their vote on Amendment 78, which required state spending to have a public hearing, and Proposition 119 and 120, which dealt with taxing retail marijuana establishments for state funds and lowering tax rates on multifamily properties in the state.
I know that our voting system isn't perfect, and a lot of times it feels like it's sort of like trying to make sure that students can't have a voice in politics, which is so frustrating because I know that young people care about what's going on in this country, and voting, especially in state and local elections, is just the best way to make that happen.
As the time to vote in Colorado ticks down by the hour, more and more Rams filter into the voting booths, encouraged by volunteers like Anya, determined to keep democracy alive at the school. Voting is close in every location for the night, but countywide results can be expected by Thursday afternoon, and statewide results should be processed by the 12th at the latest. Stick around after the break for Michelle Ellis to let us know why we're already starting to see snow in November.
It's crazy. That's right here on CTV Channel 11. Welcome back from the break, Rams.
Co-founder of the Poudre Wilderness Volunteers, Art Bunn, passed away last week. In 1995, Bunn, along with Charles Bell, founded one of the largest all-volunteer organizations in the U.S., covering 58 trails in the Canyon Lakes Ranger District of the Roosevelt National Forest. The organization is around 320 members strong now and continues to grow. Annually, these volunteers produce more than 25,000 hours. In remembrance of Bunn, Bell says, quote, "His insights and dedication were key for PWV to become one of the best forage stewardship organizations in the country," end quote. These volunteers will continue to work hard in honor of Bunn to ensure that his lifelong achievement lives on.
Even though spooky season has come to a close, it's not too late to give some creepy crawlies their spotlight. However, these ones may not be that creepy after all. Maya Holmes runs CSU's Bug Zoo, which she describes as a living collection for outreach and education. Personally for her, it's a dream.
I have the really unique, awesome position of being able to say that I get paid to talk about bugs, which is awesome because I love bugs and I like talking, so it's the perfect job for me.
Home to over 40 species, the Bug Zoo houses an assortment of tarantula, cockroach, and other arthropods. However, this is not a lab for research. In fact, Holmes tries to avoid it.
There's a bit of a debate in the scientific community about whether or not arthropods can feel pain, and in the Bug Zoo, we function under the assumption that they can feel pain. And therefore we don't do any lethal studies, we don't do any stress studies.
Some of the work they will conduct involves behavioral case studies. For the most part though, it's a space to learn, observe, and possibly fight arachnophobia.
Everything in here is alive and awesome, and it's a way to share why we should care about arthropods and not just squash them. If they're as dangerous as people say, we would have a lot more people dying from spiders than we do, and we just simply don't.
While it still may give some an unnerving feeling, Holmes feels at her element surrounded by these fascinating creatures.
Entomology is such a deep field that you could spend your entire life learning about entomology and still just have an infinite well of things to learn about, which I find really appealing. You can see me. Look over this way.
Holmes also expressed excitement about the new entomology major which launched last year. Even if you are not in the major, she says that anyone who is interested can volunteer or even tour the zoo. All I know is that I may need to go back in the future.
While CSU students are weeks past orientation, new faculty went on a RAM tour to connect in an engaging traveling seminar. The purpose of this tour is to create connections and collaboration between the CSU staff and the state of Colorado. This year, President Joyce McConnell, Provost St. Mary Peterson, and Vice President for Engagement and Extension Blake Naughton took participants on a 2-day trip. This adventure took the group through various Northwest Colorado locations, including the soon-to-be Spur Campus, Sea Lazy U Ranch, and Steamboat Springs. At each stop, they heard from CSU community partners and employees across Colorado about local needs and how collaboration enhances success. CSU staff spent this time also connecting and creating new relationships across different departments. RAM Tour was a part of an annual forum hosted by the Office of Engagement and Extension. This forum is open to any CSU faculty or staff member and holds numerous events throughout November. Those interested in learning more can do so at ENGAGEMENT.COLOSTATE.EDU.
Fort Collins streets are about to get a lot more colorful with new sidewalk art installations. The project is funded by the National Association of Transportation Officials and aims to transform public spaces and build community with the installation of the new form of art. 3 murals are set to be painted before the end of 2021. So sidewalks and streets in Fort Collins will soon transform from gray and drab to anything artists can imagine. The art will survive for the life of the street and will not impact any current road markings. Community members are encouraged to grab a brush and help the artist from noon till 5 each installation day. Well, Rams, that's all the news we have for you tonight.
But don't go anywhere because Alex Press will be joining us after the break to give you the rundown on this week in CSU Athletics.